What if the future of electricity was hiding beneath your feet this entire time? Not inside giant nuclear reactors, not in massive solar farms stretching across deserts, not buried in rare lithium deposits worth billions of dollars, but in dirt, ordinary soil, the same ground people walk across every single day without giving it a second thought. It sounds almost ridiculous at first, like one of those impossible science headlines designed to grab attention for a few seconds before disappearing into the endless flood of internet hype. But this is real. Scientists are now developing dirt-powered fuel cells, systems capable of generating electricity using living microbes naturally found in soil. And while the technology is still evolving, researchers believe it could eventually power sensors, remote devices, smart agriculture systems, environmental monitoring networks, and perhaps one day much more. The implications are staggering, because if this technology succeeds, it could challenge one of the biggest assumptions modern civilization has ever made. That electricity must come from large, centralized systems. What if power could instead emerge quietly, naturally, continuously from the living world itself? And once you begin looking deeper into this discovery, the story becomes far stranger than most people realize. Because dirt isn't dead. In fact, healthy soil may be one of the most alive places on Earth. A single teaspoon of soil can contain billions of microorganisms. Bacteria, fungi, microbes, and microscopic ecosystems, all interacting in ways scientists are still trying to fully understand. Beneath forests, fields, wetlands, and even your backyard exists a hidden world constantly moving, consuming, breaking down material, and exchanging energy. Right now, under your feet, life is busy recycling the planet. Dead plants decay. Organic material breaks apart. Microbes feed. Chemical reactions unfold every second. And during those reactions, something remarkable happens. Electrons are released. That's where this entire story begins. Because scientists discovered that certain microbes naturally transfer electrons outside their cells during metabolism. Normally, those electrons disappear harmlessly into the environment. But researchers realized something incredible. If they could intercept that electron flow, they could generate usable electricity. That realization led to the development of microbial fuel cells, tiny systems designed to capture electrical energy produced by living organisms in soil. Think about how strange that sounds. Electricity generated by bacteria, not manufactured, not burned, not mined, produced biologically. And the craziest part? Nature has already been doing this for billions of years. Humanity simply never noticed. Now researchers are designing systems where electrodes are buried in the ground, creating pathways that allow electrons released by microbes to travel through a circuit. That movement creates electric current. In simple terms, the soil becomes part of a living battery, except unlike a traditional battery, which eventually runs out of stored energy. Microbial fuel cells may continue generating electricity as long as microbial life remains active. That changes everything, because batteries have always had one major weakness. They die, phones die, flashlights die, electric vehicles lose capacity over time, emergency systems fail, remote sensors stop working, and maintaining batteries across billions of devices has become one of the biggest hidden technological challenges on Earth. Most people never think about how many batteries modern civilization depends on, but they're everywhere. Inside satellites, inside medical implants, inside ocean sensors, inside smart farming equipment, inside environmental monitoring systems hidden deep in forests and deserts, inside military infrastructure, inside supply chains, inside data systems. Modern civilization quietly runs on stored electricity, and that creates enormous problems. Battery production requires mining massive quantities of lithium, cobalt, nickel, and other rare materials. Entire ecosystems are disrupted during extraction. Water supplies are strained. Waste accumulates. And as global demand for batteries explodes alongside electric vehicles and renewable energy systems, scientists are increasingly searching for alternatives. Not because batteries are useless, but because the world may soon need something better. Something sustainable. Something self-sustaining. Something alive. That's why dirt-powered fuel cells are attracting so much attention. especially for low-energy applications where long-term reliability matters more than raw power output. Imagine sensors buried in farmland, continuously monitoring moisture levels for years without needing battery replacement. Imagine wildfire detection systems operating deep in forests powered by the soil itself. Imagine environmental sensors tracking climate changes in remote locations where replacing batteries will be nearly impossible. Now imagine disaster zones after hurricanes, earthquakes, or infrastructure collapse. Traditional power systems fail. Fuel delivery stop. Electrical grids go dark. But underground microbial systems continue generating small amounts of electricity silently beneath the surface. No fuel trucks, no charging stations, no electrical grid required, just living soil. And suddenly this strange technology starts sounding less like science fiction and more like survival infrastructure. But here's where the story becomes even more fascinating. Scientists aren't just experimenting with dirt-powered electricity in laboratories. Some systems are already working in real-world environments. Researchers have developed microbial fuel cells capable of powering small sensors in wetlands, agricultural fields, and isolated ecosystems. In some cases, devices have operated for months or even years using naturally occurring biological activity. And while these systems currently generate relatively low amounts of power, improvements are happening rapidly. New materials are making electron collection more efficient. Advanced electrode designs are improving conductivity. Scientists are identifying microbial species better suited for energy transfer. Nanotechnology is opening possibilities that barely existed a decade ago. And some researchers believe we are only beginning to understand what bioelectric systems are capable of. Because electricity and biology have always been deeply connected. Your brain operates through electrical impulses. Your heart beats because of electrical signaling. Nerves communicate through electrical activity. Electric fish generate powerful shocks. Even cells themselves maintain electrical gradients essential for life. In many ways, life and electricity are inseparable. So perhaps the real surprise isn't that microbes can generate electricity. Perhaps the surprise is that humanity overlooked it for so long. And one scientist realized biological systems could become power sources. An even bigger question emerged. Could entire ecosystems eventually become energy infrastructure? Think about that carefully. Human civilization has traditionally separated nature and technology. Cities versus forests. Machines versus biology. Industry versus ecosystems. But microbial fuel cells challenge that entire way of thinking. Because here, nature and technology are working together. The living world becomes part of the machine. And that opens a door of possibilities that sound almost futuristic. Could roads one day harvest energy from microbial activity underground? Could wetlands become both ecological preserves and decentralized power systems? Could future smart cities integrate living biological energy networks beneath sidewalks and parks? Could agricultural land simultaneously produce food and electricity? It sounds unbelievable now. But so did many technologies that eventually transformed civilization. There was a time when people laughed at the idea of carrying powerful computers in their pockets. There was a time when electric cars were considered impractical fantasies. There was a time when the internet seemed unnecessary. History is filled with inventions dismissed before they changed the world. And sometimes the most revolutionary breakthroughs begin quietly, not with explosions, not with giant headlines, but with small discoveries hidden in laboratories few people pay attention to. Which brings us to one of the most important parts of this story. The race for energy is no longer just about producing more power. It's about producing smarter power. For over a century, civilization built enormous centralized systems. Power plants, transmission lines, fuel pipelines, industrial grids. And while those systems enabled incredible progress, they also created vulnerabilities. A single failure can shut down entire regions. Natural disasters cripple infrastructure. Fuel shortages trigger economic chaos. Massive systems are powerful, but fragile. That's why many scientists now believe the future may become increasingly decentralized. Smaller systems, localized energy, self-sustaining networks, and dirt-powered fuel cells fit perfectly into that vision. Because instead of relying on one giant source of electricity, power generation could become distributed across countless tiny biological systems embedded throughout the environment. A world where energy quietly emerges everywhere, under forests, under roads, under farms, under cities, almost invisible. And perhaps that's what makes this technology so intriguing. It doesn't dominate nature. It collaborates with it. But before we get carried away imagining entire cities powered by dirt, it's important to understand the limitations. Right now, microbial fuel cells produce relatively small amounts of electricity compared to traditional batteries or power systems. They are excellent for low-power devices, sensors, and monitoring equipment. But scaling them up for larger applications remains difficult. Soil conditions matter enormously. Temperature changes affect performance. Moisture levels influence microbial activity. Different environments produce different electrical outputs. And engineering stable, long-lasting systems in unpredictable natural conditions is incredibly challenging. Nature is messy, and biological systems rarely behave with the consistency engineers prefer. Some experts believe microbial fuel cells may remain niche technologies useful only for specialized applications. Others argue that continued advances in biotechnology, material science, and synthetic biology could dramatically expand their capabilities over the next few decades. And honestly, nobody knows yet which side is right. That uncertainty is what makes this moment so exciting. Because we may be watching the earliest stages of a technological shift that future generations will study in history books. Or we may simply be exploring one fascinating branch of science that helps improve specific systems without replacing batteries entirely. Either way, the implications are profound, because discoveries like this force humanity to rethink something fundamental. What counts as technology? For most of human history, technology meant separating ourselves from nature, building over it, controlling it, extracting from it. But now scientists increasingly look toward biology itself for solutions. Spider silk inspires stronger materials. Plant systems inspire robotics. Neural networks inspire artificial intelligence. And now soil microbes may help inspire the next generation of power systems. Nature is no longer viewed only as a resource. It's becoming a blueprint. And perhaps one of the greatest lessons here is humility, because the Earth may already contain solutions to problems humanity struggles desperately to solve. Climate change, energy storage, sustainability, waste reduction, infrastructure resilience. Maybe the answers were never entirely about building bigger machines. Maybe some answers were quietly evolving beneath our feet all along. Invisible, ancient, patient, waiting for humanity to finally notice. And when you step back and think about it, there's something almost poetic about this idea. Civilization has spent centuries digging into the earth searching for fuels to burn. Coal, oil, gas, resources extracted violently and consumed rapidly. But now scientists are exploring a completely different relationship with the planet. Not extraction, cooperation, generating energy alongside living ecosystems rather than destroying them. That shift in thinking may prove just as important as the technology itself. Because the future of energy may not simply be cleaner. It may become more alive, more integrated, more biological, waiting for humanity to finally notice. And when you step back and think about it, there's something almost poetic about this idea. Civilization has spent centuries digging into the earth searching for fuels to burn. Coal, oil, gas, resources extracted violently and consumed rapidly. But now scientists are exploring a completely different relationship with the planet. Not extraction, cooperation, generating energy alongside living ecosystems rather than destroying them. That shift in thinking may prove just as important as the technology itself. Because the future of energy may not simply be cleaner. It may become more alive, more integrated, more biological, more connected to the systems that already sustain life on Earth. And perhaps decades from now, people will look back at this moment and realize something extraordinary. That one of the next great energy revolutions began not in giant factories or billion-dollar power plants, but in dirt, the same dirt humanity ignored for thousands of years. The same soil supporting forests, farms, rivers, and life itself, quietly generating electricity in silence. So the next time you walk outside, pause for a moment, look down, Because beneath your feet, billions of microscopic organisms are working non-stop in darkness, carrying out invisible electrical processes older than humanity itself. The question is no longer whether the Earth can generate electricity. We already know it can. The real question is, how far can we take it? Could dirt someday power the devices around you? Could living soil become part of future cities? Could the next generation inherit a world where energy is cleaner, decentralized, and biologically integrated into the environment itself? And perhaps the biggest question of all, what other hidden technologies has nature been running successfully for billions of years, while humanity simply failed to notice?